'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling little RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Will Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling little RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wrestling RHAPup podcast. I'm your host, Mari Forth, and with me, as always, my tag team partner, the Kira Hogan to my Layla Gray, Mr. Matt Scott. Matt, how you doing?
Just happy to be a baddie every day, all day, but especially here with you, Mari.
Yes.
A little disappointed that Jade Cargill's not here.
I know.
No offense to you.
We are back for another episode of the Wrestling RHAPup. How was your week, Matt?
It was a week. The week was week. It was a long.
The week was week.
Long week. It was like lots of just long work week. It's like one of those. Yes. I said this at the end of the episode, but I was like, I'm here on the Wrestling RHAPup, having a good time, watching Survivor, watching The Mole on Netflix, and working. So exciting things there. But happy to be dedicated to you, Mari. I'm monogamous with you, Mari, right now at this point.
All right, well, that's interesting. Okay,
I don't know if that's like a word that you would use regarding podcasts, but I could think of another word.
It's fine. It's
just fine. Okay,
it's cool because I cannot return the favor. I am
and I'm fine with that too.
Polyamorous because I have
what a way to start
podcasts.
And if you like Mari and I on podcasts, whether just one or multiple, you could subscribe, you could show love, you could share this with the people. Mari's gonna do the plugs in a little bit, but I'm just saying.
Yes, we have lots of things in the tank,
in the hopper.
Yeah, so let's just start with some news. Well, Renee Paquette is officially all elite. It's so funny because I've always since Jon Moxley has gone to AEW, since she left the Fox show and been doing her own podcast that features a lot of AEW talent. My brain automatically kind of just thought she was all elite, but now she's officially all elite.
Yeah.
They announced this in Toronto, in Canada. She's from Canada, and seems like she'll be taking maybe doing Tony Schiavone, his backstage. She'll be doing the backstage announcing, I guess. But good for her. I'm glad to see her back on the TV.
Yeah, and it's funny because earlier this week I saw something about how she's working with I want to say I'll call it an Illinois team of some sort, a pro sports team.
Chicago?
No, not Chicago. Maybe it's Ohio.
Okay, that's what I was about to say because Illinois. The only Illinois teams are in Chicago. Ohio would make sense because Jon Moxley is from he's from either Cincinnati or Cleveland. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's probably Cincinnati. Anyway, she earlier this week it was just announced that she's doing some kind of work with one of their teams, and I was like, oh, well. I guess she's booked. She's not booked in AEW. And I thought of that. And then this was announced very abruptly, 3 hours before the show. It's hey, by the way, Renee's going to be here tonight. She's all elite. Okay. I guess we're just announcing things last minute, but it works. And I love her. I loved her. I really loved her in NXT. And I think she's just so natural and charismatic. Her time on Raw commentary was rough, and she's talked about that a lot. She does not love to do commentary. She doesn't love Vince McMahon yelling in her ear. Who could blame her?
Yeah, I think her time on Raw was rough because of her surroundings, not her. For me, between Vince yelling in her ear and Corey yelling next to her, I don't blame her for having a tough time.
Yeah. So no, she's amazing. And I think the other thing is she has been up to a lot in the last couple of years since leaving WWE.
Yeah.
She's had her podcast, of course, which is great, and she's out there, as you mentioned, interviewing the people, and so it's nice that she's kind of just done her own thing. And I almost think that like maybe people didn't expect her to go back to WWE, especially with her husband being in AEW, an essential part of AEW. But I don't know. I feel like the reaction's mostly been good. The unfortunate thing about it, though, Mari, is that I've seen people respond like, man, they should have booked her better. They should have put her in a different light, not having people interrupt her. Like, just the fan response to some of it isn't great, but like, I think they did a great job with her, and I think that she's great and adds a lot to the brand as a professional.
Professionale. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, good for her. I think women, like when women get these type of roles, people always are so much harder on them than their male counterparts.
Yeah.
So I was really sad when she wasn't announcing anymore. So I'm definitely glad that she's back. She's in the business. Maybe she'll take over for AEW as a commentator team. Like, I don't know, someday, like, down the road.
Maybe.
But
if she wants to.
If she wants to, exactly that. So congrats to her for officially being a part of the announced team now on AEW.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Renee's there now, formerly in WWE, of course. Saraya is there now, formerly Paige in WWE. And, this isn't part of our news section really, but there was news and just talk. And she actually was on Talk is Jericho, which I wasn't listening to because I can't listen to Chris Jericho like that anymore. Yeah. But like she was on there talking about why she left and the whole thing. And like apparently WWE, it's all complicated, but Triple H of all people was kind of surprised, didn't re-sign her. Hopefully she does well in AEW.
Triple H didn't re-sign her.
Well, Triple H wasn't in charge at that point. It was Vince McMahon and Johnny Ace, and then it was kind of too late after that point. But I think what it came down to, which I think is a relevant point for talent in general, is like, am I going to take a % of your Twitch? Am I going to take a % of what you're doing? Am I trying to take your... And so hopefully Renee is able to like own all the things she's doing. Hopefully she's able to work with let's say the Cincinnati Bengals. I might completely be wrong.
That's football,
and like make her the sports.
Keep going. Sports.
Yeah. It might be like the minor league. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, like I think that it's cool that she's able to have multiple endeavors. And I think that that's one of the benefits of AEW when it comes to talent.
Yeah, that's true. There was a report suggesting, circulating earlier this week, that some of the AEW talent aren't happy with like the light schedule anymore. Because they only do one show a week, like one show. There's no house shows. So if you're either on Dark or Elevation, like even that, it's like people want to like work within the company more. Like it's been a debate online because it's like for the people who are booked and busy, it's great. You can work wherever you want to. You can be on AEW and you can then go to wherever. But for those who are, struggling to book like independent wrestling, they're saying they might not be making enough money. Like, I don't know. It's just the whole debate online. Seems like teetering on the line of more tribalism, of course,
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think the best thing you could do is that if you can't book everybody, just don't hold them back from doing other things. Like, It's interesting because in WWE, we don't really, I feel like people don't complain about that as much when talents just like are not getting booked, especially a few years ago when they had like hundreds of talent on the roster and they obviously couldn't book everybody. Like there'll be people who aren't working and I mean, but they're getting paid. They're getting paid their downside guarantees. And so I feel like I hear you, but AEW isn't limiting the other opportunities that the talent has.
No, exactly. So. And this report, they were saying from the talent themselves, we're saying that they just like, because if you think about it, so from a perspective of established talent, top tier talent, let's just pull one out of the bag. Orange Cassidy just recently won.
that title.
He can be on AEW, but also get booked on plenty of indie shows
All
if he
day.
wants or needs to, all
Yep.
day, right? So he doesn't have to worry. But like, let's now go back to Layla Gray. Before she was in the baddie section, she was only on Dark, and she was like, she was booking like independent shows here or there, but not, you know, as featured as much. So her moving up to be in the baddie section and be featured weekly, was, she like tweeted out, it was like her dream and everything like that. Like like if you're established and your brand is established, then you don't really care about as much TV time, because people know who you are and you can just book dates accordingly. If you are not known, if you're not as well known, you can't get the bookings as easily. You want more TV time. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it for the talent, they want more TV time, they want more work. That's what the reports are saying. On the flip side, with WWE, the fans complain when they don't see people, when they don't see a lot of the talent. Like, this week on Raw, there was only one women's section, one women's segment and match, and the internet was in an uproar for a whole night. And I agree. There's so many women, and you've had all these storylines, but all of a sudden, like, they couldn't fit the women this week, you know, which weeks of like, they weren't thinking ahead with the booking. But the girls who are sitting in the back are at least still getting paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, they get paid. And
paid?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, like the lowest, like some of the lowest WWE contracts are still like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like baseline, if you're not in development, like the developmental brand, it's still like a couple $100,000, unless I'm mistaken somewhere.
Well,
I try not to be in the wrestlers' pockets, but you know,
I mean, once in a while I like to be, but that's for another time too.
Yeah, if developmental contracts for like big names is 250,000, I can't imagine you're not getting, you know, at least the six figures on the main roster.
Yeah, that's real.
Well.
And you know what? To be paid and then also have the platform, even just to like, you know, be in the background of a segment sometimes, or just to have your face flashed across like you know, one of those promo videos or something, or like whatever it might be.
Yeah,
like that is adding to your brand. And like,
exactly.
I mean, the good news for anyone in AEW or WWE is like, those social media accounts are yours, those followers go with you. But it is sad, to your point, like the place of the women this week. We will not be talking about the women all that much this week, but
because they gave them nothing.
You know really, how we are. I mean, and it's we try. You know that we try. The people know that we do try. So, but
yeah,
I just want to shout out what you're saying about Layla Gray. Just and pulling up that tweet you referenced, where she mentions like 1.5 years ago, I was working as a waitress at Twin Peaks. One morning, I received a random message on Facebook asking me if I was interested in coming in for a dark match on AEW. Needless to say, I didn't last long at the Twin Peaks shot. Thank you, AEW, for changing my life. So just putting things into perspective, these are real people.
Yeah,
and some are doing really well, and others are still trying to get to that point where, you know,
and I say all that to say, because again, I don't think this should dissolve into tribalism. Like, oh, WWE pays better, oh, AEW treats people better. You know, it shouldn't dissolve into that. I think what it is knowing for the individual wrestler which company works for them, and having the option of which company, like that's what we're here for. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest thing of having two major companies, at least two major companies on American soil. It's like, at least you get a choice now. You're no longer forced to just deal with the WWE if it doesn't fit your lifestyle. So
definitely not.
Yeah, that's why that's important. All right, so Extreme Rules was a week ago, Matt. Any final thoughts from Extreme Rules, really? Like anything? I mean, I'm about to plug our Extreme Rules reaction, but
yeah, we really did lay out our reactions. And the thing I love about doing it live on Sundays at noon Eastern, after the premium live events is that,
Mm-hmm.
we're able to compose our thoughts. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
raw, or like, it's not just like raw reactions, but it's like, ooh, here's what we're feeling. And we're still feeling it, but there's a lot that we had to share. I feel like our episode was like an hour and a half,
It
maybe.
was. Yeah, it
Yeah. So
was.
I don't know. It was a great show. And I mean, with WWE, just like most fans, I'm always thinking, what's next?
What's
What's
next?
next?
Yeah.
Where are we going? So that's kind of where my mind's been. So
Mm.
Extreme Rules is in the rear view at
Yeah.
this point for me, at least. But what about you?
Yeah, Extreme Rules, again, still a great premium live event. If you want to hear our full reactions, you can go to RHAPup.com/wrestling feed to listen to the latest episode. But I think the premium live event held up beautifully. I still think, what did we give it overall? Like a B or something overall, I think. I can't
I
remember.
don't know if we gave overall,
I
but
don't know if we gave it overall, but
let's call it an A minus.
okay, A-. Yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it. The follow-up for this week, maybe not so much.
No,
I don't think we got like for some of the stuff,
it
it was
just felt
like
slow and kind of
y-
sluggish actually this week.
it made me feel like they're still working out the pieces of what to do now. You know what I'm saying? Like
You know what?
that felt
Yeah.
especially correct with like all the damage control stuff. They asked damage control, they're like, "Oh, how did this, stop you?" And they introduced Bailey having a losing streak on Raw, but then
Yeah.
she won on SmackDown. So I'm like, what kind of losing streak is this? Like it's like
Right.
Liv, we were expecting her to kind of like go full mental crazy. And all she really did was attack
What she
Sonya
did.
Deville. Yeah.
Leave
She
leave
like
Sonya alone.
she attacked. Well, Sonya Deville was like saying that like Liv, she was
Yeah.
talking ish about Liv. Liv took her out, put her on a table and jumped off the table.
That's
It
what she
was
does.
it was interesting. I was kind of like,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
I really thought we were just gonna get like maybe vignettes of her just rocking in a corner for at least a week or two, but
At least a month would be nice, actually.
yeah.
Wow, and she could have even sat at home too and everything. And they could just film those all at one time. But
Yeah.
find a few different dark corners. But I think the other thing is Crown Jewel is coming up in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
This is actually like really good context before diving into the plugs and highlights and everything else, because Crown Jewel's coming up. And they have to set up whatever the matches are that are happening there. So we've talked
Mhm.
about some things we presume are happening. Like I think the one I remember right now is Sheamus versus Gunther.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I think that even
And
in this,
that's not happening. Because they had a number one contenders match on SmackDown. It was a fatal four-way. It was Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, Solo Sikoa, and Ricochet.
yeah,
And me and James were watching it like, oh, okay, so Sheamus is just gonna win this, right? And
but
no, he didn't win it. Rey Mysterio won it.
but
So
this is what I'm talking about, where it's like I
mhm,
feel like they're scrambling to get things ready. Like they have the Logan Paul Roman Reigns thing that's been set
mhm.
for a while,
Yeah,
but
for a minute.
I think this week we're starting to see
We'll
some stuff
definitely see
come
the
into shape
scramble.
because it's like 2 weeks away. So
Yep. Yep. Nailed it. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's get into those plugs so we can get into the real meat and potatoes of it. You can send any long form emails to us by going to wrestling@robhasawebsite.com. You can follow us on Twitter at WrestlingRHAPup on Twitter. Use hashtag WrestlingRHAPup to join the conversation. Hopefully you've joined the Job Has a Squadcast Facebook group, unofficial official Facebook group, so you can see us all of those Sundays for our live reactions after the premium live events. Just message us and we'll get you in there. Of course, now anytime is a great time to become a patron of Rob Has a Podcast by going to www.patreon.com/RHAP to become a patron. So you get access to exclusive podcasts, exclusive interviews, and patron games. Hopefully you've already subscribed to our podcast feed. If not, what are you doing? Go to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed to subscribe. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Tell
Let the
another
world,
friend.
yeah, let the world know we're here. Hopefully you're looking at our beautiful faces right here on the YouTube. by going to Rob Has a Podcast YouTube channel, searching Wrestling RHAPup, and there's a nice little playlist for all of our video podcasts. So go check it out. We pull up cool pictures and stuff. So I think it's a great way to consume this podcast.
I agree.
So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back for the highlights of the week. Okay, so for the highlights of the week, each week we bring you the highlights in the week of wrestling, and we put them in a very handy playlist, either in the show notes or show description, so you can follow along, watch along with us, or just sit back and listen. Let's get into the bloodline. Like you mentioned, they have been sowing the seeds for Roman versus Logan Paul. We've been coming in and out of this storyline, just like Roman's been coming in and out of WWE.
I mean, he can do what he wants. Let me just defend Roman the Reigns, because he could do whatever he wants. He could go in and out wherever he needs to in WWE. He could show Mari. He could show up how he's Roman freaking Reigns. He's like the Rock of WWE today. He could show up one week. He could decide not to show up. He could skip entire pay-per-view. Excuse me. He could skip pay-per-views if he wanted to. He could skip premium live events if he wants to. He could call them whatever he wants. He is the Roman Reigns. He's the head of the table. He does what he wants. So who am I to deny him?
I agree, but also I feel like I would feel like a hypocrite if I don't be like, I don't like that Roman has 2 belts and barely shows up, because I say that every time that Brock Lesnar does this stupid crap. So yes, I love Roman, but also it's annoying.
Look, here's what I'll say. Is that I think that if they had more stuff going on otherwise, like especially coming out of Extreme Rules, it would be like anytime that they have like, okay, they have this storyline and that one and like the tease of the White Rabbit, and you miss Roman a little bit less. I mean, we love Roman.
I definitely agree with that.
We love Roman, but like you miss him a little bit less. And I don't know, I'm with you in the sense that I just feel like I have ebbs and flows of when I'm annoyed with the fact that he has both titles and isn't there. And then you have the Usos with their championships also. And I just kind of feel like in my head sometimes I forget that Roman's, maybe this is bad, but I forget that he's there. Yeah. I'm just like, he's not there half the time.
I completely agree with you in that factor. At least when he's not there, we have been kept entertained by the other storylines going on. I feel entertained at least. So that I don't really have a problem with. But it does feel weird that they're just holding on to those titles. And on SmackDown, they said something that really kind of made me sad too, was like the Usos are 30 days away from breaking the New Day's longest reigning tag team record. And I'm like, I don't want them to do, I know, I don't want that to happen, because the New Day's record was so, it was so monumental for them. It was a good run that, maybe at the last few months was a little stale and they were just trying to get to the record, but overall it was a great reign. And I don't know if I can say that for the Usos reigns here, because for most of the time they truly have just played second fiddle to Roman, and at least New Day were their own selves, and maybe they kept fighting the same people, but at least it was when they were at the top. So I'm gonna be really sad if they break that record, but it doesn't seem like there's any plans to take the belts off of them anytime soon. I don't think.
Well, I'll agree with you, but from a different perspective. Like, I don't remember New Day's run that specifically with the championships. I do remember them having them for that record-breaking amount of time, but I think for me, and it's kind of sad actually this week. Even seeing Kofi competing and just see like New Day could be in the main event. They should be in the main event. Like, they were so hot. People love them. And it's kind of a question
Still
of like
do.
people exactly like to me it's like a question of what happened, because I don't think that they really cooled off in any way. And yes, like It's actually kind of bizarre thinking about how Big E wins the championship last year after Money in the Bank, like
Forget it
cashes
was
in
last year.
around September, and then he lost the championship only a few months later, while
Yeah.
also not being treated as a true champion and as a true headliner. And so maybe we'll get back to the point where New Day is featured. But I guess for me, the thing that bothers me about the Usos is that they're so blatantly just walking around with these championships kind of playing in our faces, like not doing anything.
Not doing anything with
Whereas
them, exactly.
New Day was always grinding and fighting and putting their all into promos and entertaining and selling merch and everything else. And I'm not saying that the Usos aren't
doing
working hard or
Yeah.
selling merch, but like it just is, if it doesn't feel as great when you're watching like this stale ass like second fiddle act right now to the number one, granted, but
Yeah.
still second fiddle to the number one. Like it would just be nice to see something that's a little bit bigger for the tag championships.
Yeah, it's the fact that the tag titles and the tag championships have nothing to do with their current storyline. You know what I'm saying? Like the storyline of like the Jey Uso simmering tensions, Sami Zayn like storyline, it's so entertaining, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the titles. The titles are just props. They're not being defended.
Yeah.
Like when did they defend the tag titles last? Like I can't remember, and it was probably on just a regular episode. You know what I'm saying? And the titles themselves have no storyline. And I don't know what the cutoff is or what I prefer. It's like, would you prefer your champions to have a storyline but it not be about the titles, or would you prefer your champions to only have storylines that are based around the title, that are, you know, boring and have no substance to it? Because it's kind of like that. Like I remember the New Day's run. They were I think when they started the run, they were I can't remember if they started the run heel and flipped to face in the middle of it or vice versa. I'm pretty sure it was they started off heel, flipped to face in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And they fought the Bar so many times. They fought the Usos so many times. You know what I'm saying?
Matches.
Like great matches, exactly. So even though it was at the end, like I said, it was just about the titles. It was just about the storyline of we want those titles. We want those titles. They were still working. They were working hard, like you said. For me, what the Bloodline is doing right now, they're crafting a whole story that's so good that it has absolutely nothing to do with the titles. Nothing. And I'm just kind of like, y'all are just holding them, and they're trying to build up all these other tag teams like Masaya Mansoor, the Viking Raiders are about to get Sarah back, like the
Hit Row.
Yes, Hit Row's coming up. Legado. Just like, so all of these tag teams are building themselves up, and for what? They're not going to get shots at the titles.
I mean, even look at like Judgment Day. There's some stuff you could do there, especially now.
The Street
Profits, but we have Gallows and Anderson. The Club are back now. Like we have so many teams,
so many good teams.
Those teams should just gang up and just there should be one segment. This is all I want. One segment where all of the tag teams go into the Bloodlines locker room and just beat down Jey Uso.
Like the Street Profits. Like I know that the Street Profits got the belts. I feel like the Street Profits almost they kind of got them too early, like in their Raw, like when they basically debuted and then got the belts.
That was forever
ago. Almost immediately. It was forever ago. It was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they held the belts, they switched the belts, and then they lost them, and then they were on this losing streak. And then they've been slowly climbed back to the front, and just, you know, over the last few months or so, they've been really like, they're so over, and they can't get over that hump. So much so that they couldn't get over that hump, that now people are just talking about just break them up, because there's no ceiling anymore for them. And people are like, break them up, give Montez a single push, all of that. Like, it's just so, that's the one thing that I hate. And I'm sorry that I'm just like going in, but like, and that was the whole point of having 2 belts, so this wouldn't happen. You know what I'm saying? The whole point of having 2 belts is so that if one storyline comes to a complete halt, the other one is still going. But putting both belts on the Usos, on Roman, brought 4 divisions to a standstill.
Well,
4.
Here's what I'll give you. Here's what I'll give you. The thing is, we talked about AEW just a few weeks ago, and we talked about the question of, does AEW have too many championships? I think it was a great conversation and great discussion. I still think about it because we really touched on both sides of the conversation. Like the idea that they do, and then the idea that maybe they don't. And it's nice that people have championships to chase. And kind of where I've been since that conversation is that I just feel like it's goofy if a wrestler, it's almost clownish if a wrestler is just like, well, I'm happy to be here. I'm going to keep wrestling and beating my body up and getting beaten by whoever without like a motivation of going for a championship. So like obviously Chad Gable won't be the world champion. He could be tag team champions again with Otis, but he won't be like the world champion. But to see that motivation in everyone to go for some type of gold would be amazing. But when you have it all tied up, like it's just strange to me when none of the tag teams are like, hey, we want those belts. Like that's why we're here. Because then it's like, what are you competing for? Are you competing just to like beat people up and have a good time, or are you competing to be the champ?
That there's been no like contendership matches. Like, well, no, remember a few months ago, a month or so ago, they tried having contendership matches, and then Braun Strowman just comes in and destroys the division. Like
the monster among monsters, they say. He used to be the monster among men, by the way, but I don't understand. I don't understand why he's back. I also don't understand why the teams aren't teaming and trying to get those belts. But
exactly. So let's go into more of the bloodline, like what we actually do like about the storyline.
Well, I mean, I will say, we have to appreciate like why it is what it is, which is that the story is Roman and the bloodline are all powerful, that they're dominating everybody. I think the problem with that though is that we need the bloodline pulling some like Judgment Day shenanigans. We need the bloodline like beating up we need the Usos beating up all the tag teams and attacking them. We need Roman beating up all the potential contenders. And we do get a little bit of it in terms of like Matt Riddle and Drew and others coming up, but like I just would like to see more all around dominance. Even like Damage Control is more dominant in that sense of beating up everybody than the bloodline is. So it just feels, well, I don't want to talk about how it feels strange, but like I do appreciate the idea behind it.
Yeah, they're going for the whole untouchable thing. Like they're just so dominant, they're untouchable. And you know, and now this infighting with Jey is like, this is gonna be the downfall of the bloodline. And again, I hope it can't come soon enough because I really don't want them to beat the New Day's record. But the fact that they're pointing it out, I'm like, oh god, I think they're gonna beat the record.
And is WrestleMania in LA this coming year?
Yeah, in Hollywood this year.
Really? Wow, that really crept up on us.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Wasn't it supposed to be WrestleMania Hollywood was supposed to be this year, but when 37 got half canceled by COVID in Tampa, they ran Tampa back, which pushed which pushed everything, and then they did Texas, and so everything got pushed back like a year because WrestleMania 39 was supposed to be Hollywood. Now it's going to be WrestleMania 40.
We know that we want The Rock. The Rock should be there. So maybe this is going in that direction. And like, you know, we'll see. But if we don't get The Rock at WrestleMania in Hollywood, Mari, I don't even know.
We're never getting The Rock. If we don't get it, then we're not getting it. Like,
this is the thing, though, that we mess ourselves. We don't mess ourselves up, but like we as wrestling fans sometimes do in terms of speculation. But like, who could blame you? This should be the last time we get The Rock.
They've been talking about The Rock coming for like 2 years now. I'm convinced that. At this point, I'm convinced, and I've convinced myself that the reason that Roman is holding it this long is because of The Rock. I think, you know, again, all of this got pushed back a whole year. Maybe this was supposed to be the story. I think all the storylines going into WrestleMania Hollywood this year were supposed to be for last year, you know.
Let me level with you, Mari. If Dwayne does not show up at this week's WrestleMania, this coming year's this week's WrestleMania, yes, it is Raw is this week's equivalent of WrestleMania. But if Dwayne does not show up at this coming year's WrestleMania, like, we just need to forget about him. I'm blocking him on all platforms. Like, I never want to hear from him again. I don't want to watch Young Rock. I don't want to watch Old Rock. I don't want to watch. I
don't want to hear about his tequila. I don't want to hear about his workout plan.
I don't want to go to Little Rock. I don't want anything to do with rocks.
I don't want to hear his breakfast orders on his social medias. I don't want to see his cute little daughters.
I don't want to see him working out and being jacked everywhere. Yes. Just rubbing our face. Like, why are you working out, sir, if it's not to wrestle a match with Roman Reigns?
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm hoping is, this bloodline thing, I'm hoping that they just slowly lose all of the titles before WrestleMania this year, because I don't think that if it's Roman Rock, they don't need the title. Like, they truly don't need the title.
No.
Jay and Jimmy, I think it's so
I
okay.
like this.
Yeah, so I think Jay and Jimmy maybe they break up the Usos. Maybe Jay finally goes and is his own man, or maybe the Usos find another tribal chief. Maybe The Rock is their tribal chief, and Roman is just left with Solo and Sami behind him.
I mean, that's not the worst thing. Actually, that's an interesting idea.
That'd be kind of funny.
But I like the idea of them slowly losing their championships. And I think the thing that we need on the other side of that is just to have the teams like built up more around that. So like just build up some more viable contenders doing their own thing outside of the Usos, and then have them each take the championships. Build up some viable singles contenders for Roman that aren't Logan Paul. That's what people should be upset about. Logan Paul taking a spot for the championship. That was like, I know that people used to say that about Ronda, like, oh, Ronda's taking people's spots. And then other people would say, like, it's not like no one's taking Ronda's not taking a spot. It's Ronda's spot. But Logan Paul is taking somebody's spot. He does not need to be there. That could be anybody. So just build people up and have them take those belts away. And Roman can eat the losses, and the Usos could eat the losses, and they'll still be perfectly fine.
I just also think, oh my God, Austin Theory still has a Money in the Bank briefcase too, and we haven't seen him in months.
Yeah, he's been a little quiet lately.
Yeah. But anyways, so Logan Paul tries to sow seeds of frustration in the bloodline, saying like, "Oh, Jay doesn't listen to the tribal chief." Logan Paul on the mic, Jesus,
troll,
such a troll job. And then so Roman makes Sami responsible for Jey Uso, and this is that simmering storyline, right? This is what always happens. A really tight faction, they're really tight, and they let another member in, and that member either immediately, like Finn Balor, or slowly, like Sami and Randy, erode the faction from within. Like, this is faction storylines 101. But the way that Sami Zayn is doing it, it's kind of really funny. Like, it's not like Daniel Bryan infiltrating the Wyatt family. It's not like Randy Orton infiltrating the Wyatt family, where it seems like at one point you realize like, oh, he's trying to break them up. It's like Sammy's overzealous attempts to keep them together is what's breaking them up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the thing with Sami that I just appreciate so much is that there's this promo. So Logan Paul, this was on the October 7th episode, and Logan Paul's like, are you the tribal chief, Roman, or is it you, Jay? And it's like, okay, bro, you have to come in here. This is family matters. Stay out of it. Like, leave the family issues to Sami and his bloodline. But Logan Paul decided to get involved, and Sammy's cutting this whole promo and on Logan Paul. And at first, it's like the goofy Sami, like, what are you doing? This is corny. And the bloodline's kind of laughing, like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, you the twos and we the ones. And they're like, what are you talking about, bro? And then I feel like there was a moment where it actually turned into a good wrestling promo. Where it's like,
Yeah.
damn, Sammy's making some points. And I get it. Like, Mari, everyone's falling in love with Sami Zayn
Oh,
again
definitely.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that we loved him and then cooled off. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
think that he's kind of been in a rebuilding phase the last couple of years where he's been getting a lot of momentum. And he could be, Mari, he could be the next Universal Champion, Sami Zayn.
Honestly, I would love it. I think Sami is doing such a great job of being the lone face in a faction of heels. It's very, very funny. And that's the thing, right? Like, so we said the infiltrator always seems to like be infiltrating so that they can get what the leader has. But Sami doesn't seem to be doing that. You know, on this week's episode of SmackDown, like Roman called Sami and Sami was like, "Yeah, Roman, I got like, oh, we have inside jokes." Like it would be so funny for Sami to take one of those belts off of Roman, but how do you do that? Like I would love for it to be almost like an accident that he takes like one of the belts off.
You think it could be like a 4-way match maybe that happens and it's like I don't know, but
struggles with thinking about pinning somebody.
no, maybe it's like Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn versus Logan Paul versus like throw in somebody else, right? And you know, Roman gets taken out, but Sami, he's just like, oh, I'm coming in. He hits the haluka kick, gets the win, and it's like, oh, he's champion. Like something like that could happen.
Yeah. And then he's like, I did it for the bloodline.
I did it for the bloodline.
Oh my god!
Honestly, that would be perfect.
Keep the belts.
I need that. I think I need him to have that title because he hasn't been a world champion in WWE yet. But that would take him to such another level. Like they kind of need to do it. He's so hot right now.
And then they could kind of like, you know, if it's for one of the belts, Roman, you're like, okay, yeah, play nice for a little bit, and then they kind of give him the Randy Orton evolution treatment, like
the thumbs up, thumbs down on him.
Yeah.
Oh my god! My only thing about that with with evolution back in the day is that I remember being so disappointed. One, because that was like the one point in my fandom that I loved Randy Orton. I was like, oh, Randy. And he beat, I believe, Chris Benoit for the world championship. And then they turned on him the next night. And it's interesting when we get the slow burn. Like even earlier this year, we got Edge being kicked out of Judgment Day when Finn was brought in. And there wasn't like the slow burn of it.
Right.
So maybe we'll get more of that. Slow
burn, I think so.
We like a slow burn.
Yeah, so Matt Riddle came out and asked for a match, even though he knows he's stipulated not to. Like, go to the back of the line, sir. I'm so glad Roman was like, no. But he did beat Sami Zayn because Jey Uso didn't help. Can we call this the gaslighting of Jey Uso? Poor Jey Uso. Jey Uso is so stressed out.
Here's what I'll say.
He on SmackDown this week, Sami went against dang, who did Sami face?
You know who he faced, Mari.
I'm blanking.
And Jay helped him win.
Kofi. So Jay helped Kofi. Jay helped Sami win by like hitting the gnarliest super kick on Xavier Woods. It was really good. But nobody saw him help. Like Solo didn't see him, Sami didn't see him. So Jay is like so frustrated. He's so upset. Everybody's gaslighting Jey Uso. Change my mind.
And by the way, let me just say Solo is great in the backstage promo after that, where he's just like, look, I didn't see it. He's not saying it didn't happen. He's just like, I didn't see it, but I know that I could learn a lot from Sami. And that's all he said. And that warmed my heart just to see Solo Sikoa as a young person in this world finding mentorship and inspiration in Sami. I'm getting emotional right now.
Not his brothers and Sami.
It's so beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Jey Uso is so underrated in everything that he does. This has been so good.
By the way, Solo is interesting. Like, I hope that he stays on the main roster and like has time to grow and shine. But like, they were talking about him even in that moment potentially going for the Intercontinental Championship. So that's something else to watch out for. Like, could you imagine these people having more belts in their bloodline?
I know. He did a good job in that Fatal 4-Way match. Like, he had a lot of
totally.
good stare downs with, like, Sheamus and stuff. He really hung with, like, those dudes. Like, those dudes have been doing it for years, and he did a really good job of hanging in there. They call him the enforcer of the bloodline. Honestly, it's giving Samoa Joe, to be quite honest. The not
Samoa
talking.
Joe, Mari.
It is the towel on the head. It is straight out
the
of
towel
Samoa
on the
Joe's.
head.
Yeah.
Okay. There are,
it's okay, I guess.
I'll go with that. That's a big comparison, but I mean, Samoa Joe's also a phenomenal performer and lots of just intensity. And Solo has that intensity. We love that for
and he's
Mr.
very young
Sikoa.
still. Yeah,
he's young. I know. He's like I don't know how old he is, but he's a young lad. I almost feel like he's like the baby version of the Usos.
Really?
I mean, yeah, he's like kind of,
Duh, because he's the Usos younger brother. Gee Louise.
No, but okay.
Are you talking about their gimmick back in the day?
No, like literally, he looks like an infant to me.
Well, duh. Because he's
from one person who looks like an infant to another.
There you go.
There we go.
Let's move on then.
Is that all the highlights of the week?
No, that is not. Well, okay. Solo is 29 years old.
Oh, okay. So he's not that young.
Yeah.
They're probably like 10 years older or something like that, though, right? By this point, they've been around for so long, regardless of how old they are, like they do just like a lot more weathered and beaten
37.
Okay.
37. They don't look 37 to me, though.
No, but they feel 37 to me because they've been around the last decade.
Yeah. I agree with that. But they look great for 37. 37 is not bad.
Yeah. It's young.
They all look young.
They are.
Okay. So next up, we get Bray Wyatt's first promo back, like real promo back. So they waited till the absolute last 4 minutes of SmackDown last night, really. It was like 7 minutes. He got a new entrance with the little shed, the glowing shed, which I loved.
Yeah.
But he also got a new song. So the debate online is like, did you like the new song? It's his Firefly song, but like really, really remixed. It's very interesting. I think it's gonna grow on me. I didn't have any I wasn't outright like, oh no. Like I like when they remix. I like when they remix the old song. As long as I can hear the old song, I'm normally okay with that. But he came out just wearing like all black, just chilling with his lantern.
Yeah, which by the way, the choice, like you didn't need a lantern, bro. Retire the lantern because you are in.
What?
Look, hear me out. This is a hot take, but
it's a horrendous take already.
You are in an arena. You are in an arena full of lights, sir. You do not need a lantern. Just turn the lights on.
No, how will his followers know where to follow if he doesn't have the lantern, Matt?
Maria, I have an answer for you. Literally, their cell phone camera lights, like just shining on the ramp.
This is on the ramp. The Wrestling RHAPup does not endorse this message. Keep your lantern, Bray.
Let your light shine, Bray.
So he just himself, he came down, he gave a very emotional promo. He was like, this is me, just me for the first time. It is me. I am, the last year I've struggled. He talks about losing two people very close to him. One, of course, being Brody Lee. And then losing his job and struggling. And he said everybody just kept asking him, when is he coming back? Is he coming back? And he's talking about he does it for everybody out there. It was a very, very good promo. And I believe everything about it. I truly think this was
really
like Wyndham Rotunda was out there talking,
Sure. Yeah. The one thing that was off, all of his words to me made sense, but I was very much caught up on the cadence of his voice here. Like it was all over the place. Like to me, I'm like, this sounds, it was giving like, I don't want to say he sounded like an insane person in the cadence of his voice, but he was it
Fighting
seemed
within himself.
exaggerated. Yeah, so like when he's like, "This is just me," but but I really felt like this isn't just you. We're getting something happening here, and then we get like the thing at the end where the lights actually shut off mid promo, and there's the cryptic mess, and so I like this Bray. But I don't know what to think of him, like as a face, a heel, something in
So
between.
what it feels like, it almost feels like he's running from himself in a sense, or like he's battling himself. That's what the prevailing thought process is on the internet, and I agree. It feels like he it's back. It feels like he has found a renewed sense of purpose, but it also feels like he is pulling you. He is pulling you. He is pulling others to follow him. It's back to the original, it's an elevated version of the original character. The original Bray Wyatt, the quote unquote cult leader. When he came out as like the backwoods swamp cult leader, whatever. It feels like that, but more nuanced and more elevated. So here are what some people think the message said after he was cut off. It said, "Oh, little one, come with me. Your life is done. Forget the future. Forget the past. Life is over. Breathe your last. You got no idea who you're dealing with, but you will."
Did Beyonce write that? So like break my soul, or because that's what it sounds like.
That's the opposite of break myself.
It literally sounds like it. But okay, so I mean, here's the thing. What did you, first of all, just to start with that, because there are other rumors and things out there about where this is going, which will be fun to talk about. But what did you feel about that cryptic message?
No, that it felt to me that it feels like somebody who wants to show who they truly are, but being pulled by their dark side. Like their dark side is like, I'm taking over. It's very, and not in, like a crazy person type of way, quote unquote. But like as an imaginative character sort of way, like the protagonist that's trying to get away from the antagonist that reveals to be themselves. Very what is that movie? I can't remember the name of that movie. Like
one of those movies.
High Tide, High Noon, High something. Maybe that French movie. Anyways, people know what I'm talking about. But like, yeah, like he thinks he's the protagonist of his story, but he doesn't realize that other side of him is what he's actually fighting. And I like that. And that's what I'm just getting from right now. Who knows what we'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you though on that. And I think it's like interesting. I don't know what to think. Like, and that's the thing. Like, we as wrestling fans are always accustomed to speculating, and it's just taking it for what it is on face value. This return of Bray still has a lot of questions surrounding it. You're like, what is he doing? What are his intentions? Is he good? Is he evil? Is he going to bring in other people to stand alongside him? Are they going to be people who've been with him? Are they going to be new people? Will he be solo? And I mean, a lot of people are talking about the fact that there's this whole rumor about Wyatt 6, which is his social media. He's like updated Wyatt 6 to add that there, and people are wondering, does that mean that he's going to start a faction of some sort? Which is great because of all the people. I mean, there have been a number of teases that have come up, including like Joe Gacy has been teased to be with Bray, which would be really interesting to see them together. The other one, the guy, there's someone from NXT who's Grayson Waller has been. I don't believe that.
Don't go by that one. I was like, there've been lots of cast speculation. That one is like, he's wearing a shirt.
That's not going to happen. So Grayson Waller also teased. Of all people, though, Eva Marie has gotten the best tease so far. The one and only, the all read everything Eva Marie. has teased joining him.
She teased it by like hitting Lily into a basket, a few of like a short video, and people like for 2 days were like, nope, nope, no, nope, like we're like,
I mean, I'll take it.
I will
I will be the
I will
only one,
not
though.
take it. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, because
like it.
so yeah, so you're right. There's been a lot of teasers for the Wyatt Six. So there's Bray Wyatt himself, who, if he's fighting himself right now, he would be the White Rabbit. The White Rabbit, also from Alice in Wonderland and the song White Rabbit. You follow the White Rabbit, like that's the whole point of a White Rabbit.
Yeah, you
That's where we
follow
get it from our lexicon. Yeah,
you follow the White Rabbit into the mailbox, and
into
the
the.
Bunny Rabbit in the
Mhm.
mailbox, and then something like that,
Where do you get
right?
a mailbox? Mailbox?
It's
No,
all
you go down the hole. You
I
follow the
don't know.
rabbit down the hole.
Yeah, I don't
That's why
know.
it's called a rabbit hole. Anyways.
Oh, Sam. Not the
Um,
old tale of the bunny rabbit in the mailbox, Mari.
I have never heard of a bunny rabbit in the mailbox. So he would be playing the White Rabbit. The other 5 would be, of course, like we said on the Extreme Rules recap. You got Huskus the pig, or pig
Yeah.
boy, Mercy the buzzard,
Yes.
Rambling Rabbit,
Sister
Abby the
Abigail.
witch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sister Abigail, Abby the witch,
Abby the
whatever you want to
Witch.
call it. Yeah, from the Funhouse. And then the Fiend. We did see,
Yeah.
so maybe somebody else steps into that Fiend mask. So that would be his 5 compatriots to the Wyatt 6. Some people noticed that when Liv was beating down Sonya Deville, in the background, it was that upside down moth, like on one of the things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Liv is joining. We don't know.
We don't.
This is his first
exactly.
promo.
We don't know,
We're
and
gonna
it's not
learn.
even that we don't care, because we care very much.
Yes.
But this is the thing. Like, we could just speculate in circles.
Exactly.
But whatever they do, I mean, it could just be like 6 versions of him. Who knows? Like 6 faces of Wyatt. This
6
could be
faces.
his
That is
6.
ridiculous.
I mean, yeah,
That would be
a
so
lot
many.
I mean, we've seen more.
That
like
would be kind of
more.
funny.
We've seen more like outfit changes on Drag Race in one lip sync. So I'm just saying it's doable.
We did almost get a Bray Wyatt Sister Abigail versus Finn Balor that one time. Remember when the mumps took them out for that one?
We'll get it. We'll see. This could go so many directions. And the good news is that Bray is such a narrative-based character that this isn't going to be boring. I mean, yeah, it won't be boring. And I think it's good that things are in his hands. He has more control. I'm glad that Vince McMahon isn't involved. I feel like I want to go back and find out more of like the history of Bray and his character to understand who kind of has mucked him up, if you will, in the areas where he's had issues. Like, was it Vince and writers getting involved, or and not agreeing with his vision, or what was the deal with that? And that's
when he writes that book one day, it's gonna be really interesting. That might be the one that I actually read. Yeah,
that's real, because the thing is, he hasn't done like interviews really talking about it at all.
Yeah, because the door's been, the door was open, I think.
Also, I mean, I would imagine that him as like a 2nd generation star, if not a 3rd generation star.
I think, right?
Yeah, 3rd generation star potentially. But either way, like the respect for the business, the old school nature of how he approaches things. He's a very old school performer.
Right.
And so, I mean, I love when they don't just get on social media and thank each other after their matches or after the storylines. Like, thank you so much, like whoever crowd, for cheering me. It's like, no, you're a character, stay in character, and Bray does that better than anyone else.
Anybody. Yeah, that's very true.
We'll see where it goes.
We'll keep it. Yeah, and we'll keep updating with this. Yeah, the storyline. All right, on Raw, we got Miz celebrated his birthday. It was just a lot of potty humor. He had Maryse presenting him with big balls.
Why is she so into balls?
And well, not she is. He is. He's been making her tell him how big his balls were, and then they also had a bat. So they had like, oh, look at these big balls. They go with my bat moment. I was like, Degeneration X is in the building, and this felt like everything that they did back in the day.
They said we're not showing up. They said when they signed their contracts to be here for the night, they're like, we're not showing up unless there are jokes about bats, balls, all sorts of other things. And
yes. So as usual, birthday bashes never go well in the WWE. Dexter Lumis shows up, ends up with Maryse with her face in a cake, which was very funny because Miz like barely kicked her. She was like, what?
She was like, do I
love
sell?
that.
She almost, it's funny because I think that like there was like a mini kick that she got and she like almost bumped into the cake, but she was like, no, I'm not selling that one. And then she got a little tiny kick and barely touched the cake. Yeah. But somehow she ended up with cake
funny.
Oh my gosh, not Maryse. Leave her alone.
Yeah, man.
Sad times. And what? And then Dexter, he
cut the balls, and
he had a massive knife, Mari, and cut the balls.
Big knife, yeah. And then he ate some cake. The crowd chanted for him to eat the cake. He ate the cake. So
and this is gross though. Don't cut the balls.
All these balls. It was just nothing but balls in that.
I don't know why they do nothing but balls. And you know what? That would be a great sports podcast name. But it has nothing to do with wrestling.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Again, D-Generation X celebrated 25 years. They opened the new season of Raw. No, we didn't really need this.
They opened it and they closed it.
Yeah, they did. They opened it with their like kind of like a rehash of that like parent that not that FCC, that famous FCC opener where they're like, oh, they just start cussing and bleeping it out.
Yeah.
Whatever. They ended with just doing their entrances and their announcing, Road Dogg did the announcing. It's, I guess, sad that Mr. Ass couldn't be there. He wasn't allowed. Right.
I mean, it's like
he missed this one.
I mean, it's not sad because it's just like, I mean, sure. If they're going to be somewhere, yes, I get it. It's great to have him there, but like
they've done this so many times.
And they had the NWO ones, like they've had the NWO stuff too.
Since I've been watching full time, they've reunited at least 4 times, like over the last 8 years. They have reunited, whatever.
Yeah, what the only
I'm just gonna say the only funny thing that they did was when the Miz was yelling about how Dexter Lumis destroyed his balls in a backstage promo. Sean was like, "Oh, you must have done something to him. I know this kid. You must have done something to him." And Miz was like, "I haven't. How do I make him stop?" And Road Dogg was like, "Here, you have a match next week with Dexter Lumis. If Dexter Lumis loses, he leaves WWE. But if he wins, then he gets a contract." And then Miz walks away. And the funniest thing to me was like, I think Sean was like, "Can you do that?" And Road Dogg was like, I just did. I just made that match. Like, that
honestly,
was the funniest thing.
That's wrestling.
That's wrestling.
Because at the end of the day, like, all you really need to do is tell 2 people to show up. Like, Mari, if we got on here and if we just made a match and they decide to show up and do it, like, hey, I guess we did something right. But you know what? I have to say, in this episode, too much playing, too many balls, too much ball play, and we're not into that like this. Like, this is just a lot.
It was a lot. Another thing that happened on Raw, the Judgment Day. So the Judgment Day had this big promo, right? Talking about how they made Edge quit. And so you won't see it the full promo in the clip that we have in the show notes. But in the full clip, in the full segment, Judgment Day, I finally actually realized the complete change in Judgment Day. Almost like they're no longer that supernatural, like slightly supernatural Edge.
Yeah,
like they are basically what people have been saying. Like they're like the emo kids that can actually beat people up. But then the way that Finn was talking, I was like, Finn, where have you been? Like, he was throwing around a lot of AAVE a little bit, but it was cute. It was like he was swaggering around. It was very, very like Finn in like it was like Bullet Club light Finn, and
Yeah.
I don't have too much, not the wealth of knowledge of the Bullet Club, but this was very much Finn feeling himself, and I love that for him. I love that he was feeling himself. I love that they're like, guess what? We made Edge say, "What? I quit." Like all of the members had really good time on the mic, but this is a different Judgment Day. They still have the purple lights, they still have the black outfits, but this is not the same, and I think it's okay. Like I like it. I do like it. I'm realizing it because, like I said, I don't mind the supernatural stuff. But this is no longer that, and I think this promo really put that over, and them doing that to Beth really catapulted them into the stratosphere. Dominic just held the mic, and the crowd booed the ever loving crap out of him. Like
that's wild to me.
He has so much heat, yo, and I don't think it's go away heat. Like I think it's I think it's like well-earned heel heat. Yeah. He was trying to talk. He was like had to shout over the crowd. The crowd was so loud at booing him. And it did kind of make his line stutter a little bit. But the people and the professionals in the ring kept like, keep going. But he got silent again. He delivered the last line, silent to the camera. I think this was perfect for him. Like we've been talking about, when was he going to turn on Ray? And I think it worked that he waited so long, and that now he does have like crutches and people to still help him while also turning on Ray. What were you about to say?
No, and we even saw, just to that point, we saw Dom do this, hit the 619 on Ray with the assist from Rhea. And so a few weeks ago, I swear there was another promo where Dom had the mic in hand and then the crowd started booing. And part of me actually wonders if that was partially like piped in crowd noise. Just because I remember hearing that, like, wow, people are really responding to Dom like very negatively, and they're against him, which could make sense. And I think that that's growing, especially after what happened with Edge and with Beth. But like, I feel like they might have been piping. This is just my theory. I do think they might have been playing the crowd, like the noise of the boos. And then maybe the crowd started to follow in those footsteps a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked.
I don't think so, because I watched it live on Raw, and I watched another clip on YouTube that was not WWE's clip.
Yeah,
it was somebody else's recorded clip, and he was yelling into the mic like he could hear. You know what I'm saying? Like he was yelling because over the crowd.
When do you think he got over, though, in that sense, as a heel with the crowd? Because this week felt like a crowd reaction, but a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago when it happened, wherever the clip is, it's not important. But I really was like looking at the crowd, like these people just look like they're just standing there, standing around, not booing him as much.
I think him and Rhea have always gotten reactions. I think they've gotten reactions, and I think what happened at Extreme Rules really put it over. I mean, Finn, it's hard. That's what I was kind of alluding to with Finn. When Finn is doing this, it's hard to boo him because people love this Finn. So people are listening, they're hanging on to his every word. They were a little bit boos, but they're not, because people love Finn, Damian Priest, he might be the one lone one who is kind of like, compared to the other three, not as over.
Sure.
Every time Rhea talks, massive noise in the arena. Massive noise. But the moment that Dom touched the mic, the decibels went up. And I think it's again, it's because like, how could you? Why would you do this? You're still unexperienced. We don't like you, but in a good way. I think it makes sense to me. Honestly, I think it makes sense to me.
The disrespect, though, and it makes sense. It's like Dom's the guy who you're just, he just tries to open his mouth. You're like, shut up, just shut up, just shut up. Like none of these fans are intimidated by him, right? And that's not what you get from Dom. You get that from Damian Priest. You get the intimidation factor, even from Rhea. But from Dom, just like, shut up, Dom. Just
Yes,
shut up and sit in
with
their
your
corner, eat your
hair.
Cheerios with your
Yeah,
little greasy hair.
exactly.
And
And
yes,
everybody's like, if Rey Mysterio don't get the belt, like, so I think it's real because Ray doesn't want to fight him, but Dom keeps pushing him. So I think it makes sense. Ray went to SmackDown. He talked about quitting. People were booing that, but what they ended up
yeah.
doing is they moved Ray to SmackDown. They're like, Ray is officially coming home. Like I said, he won that match with Gunther, won that match to compete against Gunther. So their answer is moving Ray to SmackDown, and I like that because what I was thinking this week on Raw, I'm like, how are they going to end this feud with Ray? Like, I felt like it was done. It should have been done and dusted at Extreme Rules, and I think this is a great way to do that.
Well, they still
Mhm.
need to do the one-on-one match. They still need to do Ray
That's true.
versus Dom at some
That's
point, but
true.
that could be a
At some
WrestleMania
point.
match.
Mhm.
That could be
Mhm.
WrestleMania. That could be Royal Rumble. That could be anything. So I
It
think they'll
definitely
come back
shouldn't.
to it.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely should not be on this side of the year, I think.
And
I
it sounds
agree.
like it won't be, which is nice with Ray moving over to SmackDown. But
Yeah.
man, Ray, even on it's hard for me to watch Ray now because on SmackDown, like, he just looked kind of sad. He looked sad. He looked like he wanted to quit. And
And that's why people hate Dom because he's making the greatest luchador ever like quit.
how
But
dare
all
you.
that aside, they talked about AJ Styles. AJ Styles comes out, he gives a like, you're right, everybody needs friends. Out comes Gallows and Anderson,
Shocking return.
the original club known as the OC.
The
Is
OC.
it shocking? I think I
I
heard
mean,
rumblings about this.
it's not. No, and the crowd reaction wasn't even like huge.
Mm,
But it was,
was
you know
I?
what? Like, it's a big deal, right, Mario?
It's, I guess, like again, like I said, I was not in deep when the Bullet Club thing was going on. I was not fully back into wrestling when that happened. And then when I did get back into wrestling, I was not watching New Japan. I was still just getting my feet wet again with WWE. So
Yeah.
I missed a lot of definitely the original Bullet Club, coming face to face with Finn. They were
Mhm.
one of the first iterations altogether and all of that. So when AJ Styles left the Bullet Club to come to WWE in 2016, like that's when like my peak rewatching had like really started again. So I've never had any sentimental
Huh.
attachment to the OC, and plus them when they first came back, them calling them just the club was all weird. I don't like that they never really
Um,
gave them a good name that you could like grab onto. For me,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and it, like, I get it being the reference, obviously, the reference to the Bullet Club without saying
Mhm.
Bullet Club, but
Exactly.
like, I mean, beyond that, beyond the history, it just, I don't know. There is something to your point that for me didn't really translate about the club in terms of
Mhm.
AJ and Carl Anderson and Gallows and all that. And so we'll kind of see how this goes. But like, yeah, like Bullet Club was huge. Like I
Oh
remember,
yeah.
I mean, we all
The
know
shirts
that,
were
but
everywhere. Yeah.
exactly. Like I remember that was the whole thing. Like they were
Mhm.
selling out Bullet Club shirts at Hot
Hot
Topic was
Topic.
like the whole
Mhm.
thing, and everyone wore them in the wrestling world. But Bullet Club's time is kind of come and gone in terms of like what the Bullet Club is, because we have Finn here, we have AJ here, we have Gallows and Anderson, sure, and they're referencing that. But then we also had like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and then the whole freaking Bullet Club is like probably 20 different people if you really look at all the different iterations. I think Cody was in the club at some point in the Bullet
Yeah.
Club, and so
Well,
it's just like it
see,
was a thing. It was great.
that's when you
But
get into the elite
it's like the
stuff.
NWO style
Yeah,
of
because
like, let's just have everyone in it.
we gotta talk about like Fail and all them, like Tomatonga, I think is his
Yeah,
name, the
exactly.
Gorillas of Destiny, like some of the original club members. So it's just been so
Yeah.
many people, so many iterations because it's been so long since, like, I think it's been at least like a decade or almost a decade since
Probably close.
the original, the origination of it. So yeah, exactly. Like I haven't had much connection to them. And then when they came to the WWE a few years ago, they weren't really booked well or to my liking then either. So
and it wasn't the key people. I mean, they did. I mean, but the thing is, like, they didn't really come to the WWE. Like, it was just Gallows, Anderson, AJ. Sure, Finn's also there, but like Finn is Finn and known otherwise. And so I don't know. I just feel like without bringing the full package, it just wasn't as special. And there was this weird point where, like, the Bullet Club could have truly shown up somewhere with all of the members, with the Young Bucks, with Kenny Omega, with like the big heavy hitters. And that's never going to happen.
I get that, but I don't know if I want to just say that Kenny and the Young Bucks were the heavy hitters of the Bullet Club.
No.
That's kind of
not just
rude.
Them.
Yeah.
But like Tama Tonga too. Like, but you need them in the package or else there's something missing. And that's kind of where I'm like, man, we really could have had something, but the wrestling world isn't as like, it isn't collaborative enough to just have all of the Bullet Club show up on Raw. And that could have been a moment 5 years ago. Now it would be a little stale.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly that. So good. I mean, just good for AJ for having backup at this point, and we'll see how long this OC versus Judgment Day goes. Again, that's probably the least funny part about the Judgment Day. I'm more interested in whatever Rhea and Dom are doing than what Priest and Finn are doing, but it's cool. I did like that. Rhea had the armband that said Beth, like the memorial armband. She's so rude. Oh my god, I love it. She just said that like that was just a taste of what she could do after hitting the concerto on Beth. It was just we love women's wrestling.
And you know what? Leave Beth alone. She really took one for the team. That was a nice big concerto shot. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're not, beautiful armbands. Very I wonder what she made that out of. It's like Rhea took like a roll of toilet paper. Sure, we'll go with tape, but it looks a lot more makeshift, like toilet paper roll with some Sharpie on it.
It's just so funny because that's what wrestlers do if somebody like gets injured or passes away, like a real like wrestler, and it's like it's normally a real tribute. Like if you do that for somebody, it's like something like really bad actually happened. But I think this is one of the first times I can remember seeing it done kayfabe.
Well, they did it for like Eddie Guerrero back, like famously. I think that's like the moment where everybody had armbands on.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like that at least this is alluding to like they're very aware that people are thinking about that, and I mean that's heat. They're gonna get heat for that.
So much heat, yeah.
We'll see Beth though. Like I wonder. I don't know.
We're getting Beth and Rhea.
Oh, we are, but it's a question. Like, are they gonna be? Where are they going to show up? Like, are they going to be? Could there be an intergender War Games match at Survivor Series? Because there's no way that Beth is going to show up in time for Crown Jewel.
No, not War Games match.
Yes,
like not War Games match. No, there might be a Survivor Series match, but not a War Game. They only have 2 War Games. They're not wasting one of them on Judgment Day. I don't think.
That's sad that they limited themselves. Well, I guess it makes sense to only have 2, but
War Games, yes, but they could still do the elimination matches and other stuff. So
we'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
but so I mean, Edge isn't back yet. To your point about him showing up immediately after the beatdown, or Beth, thankfully. Yeah. So we'll see when they show up, but it's happening sooner or later.
I think we're definitely getting Edge and Beth versus Rhea and Dom. Like now that Ray's out of the picture, definitely. And that's what I want to see, to be quite honest. All right, let's take a quick break. And we'll be back. All right, we got to talk about Brock Lesnar. Just showing up randomly, random as hell. Like Bobby Lashley just in the ring doing U.S. champion.
Could you talk through this? What was Bobby doing? He was just
I
in
don't.
the ring, and he said, "I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk." Finally, because he's been wrestling with the people,
Mhm.
having a lot of great matches, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and having a good promo here, like, basically, it's the same old, like, I'll face anybody anytime. He had a match scheduled for Seth Rollins, um, for that night, and then all of a sudden Brock Lesnar comes out. I was like, I truly I was watching, I was semi-listening, and then I looked up, I was like, "Wait, why is Brock Lesnar here?" I was so confused for, like, 2 seconds, 'cause I'm not gonna lie, I was tuning in and out, but um Brock Lesnar comes out and just starts like attacking Bobby Lashley. I was like, "Oh, snap."
And people are really happy about it. They were
Of
really into
course,
this. Like,
people love Brock Lesnar, which
well,
is fine
but sure, yes,
for
people do
people.
love Lesnar,
Mhm.
but I was wondering, like, uh, granted, I get that Bobby Lashley has kind of been like flip floppy. He's flip flopping the last couple of years, face heel, all that, but he has been a
Face, yeah.
face,
Mhm.
and yet here we are, where he's
I
getting
mean,
booed.
yeah. Yeah. Very unfortunate, but like, now that when Brock comes out, it's whoever he's against. It's gonna be, not the face, unfortunately. So he because this is a heel move. He's just attacking Bobby Lashley for no reason, but whatever. Brock does it, so it's okay. Brock attacks Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is still set to face Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is bandaged up himself from his fight pit match. Bobby is like, of course, still in face mode champion. Like, I'll
Yeah.
face him. I'll face Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, of course, comes out and is like, give me the title. You said I get a title match. Blah 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 blah. We get Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins for the United States title match. Seth Rollins wins, and I like this. I'm
You do.
sorry. I do. I like this.
Why?
Because Seth has been working so hard he's been carrying Raw like on his back. I'm not gonna lie. He's been carrying some of these
This is true.
storylines without a champion. His matches have been the ones that I've loved watching basically the most of the men's, really, minus this Matt Riddle stuff. I'm not gonna lie. But I think it's a perfect way to put the United States championship match on him without making Bobby look bad. Bobby's had the belt for about 2 months now, or a month, 2 months, put 2 months now.
Since July, I want to say Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank. Yeah, so
Fun
3
theory.
months now. So great. He's defended him in the main event more times out of not. Unfortunately, Bobby didn't have a really good storyline at all. So I do hate
Yeah.
that. I'm not saying that he was booked great, because I do
No.
think he could have been booked better, but I think this is good for him. Getting Bobby versus Brock again, no title needed, because a title is not needed here.
Sure.
And we know what's happening. Brock is smelling that
Crown Jewel money. He said, "Ooh,
blood money.
where's
Yes.
the blood?" He's like, "Ooh, I
Yes.
smell blood, but no one's blood." Oh, it's this briefcase. Oh my gosh, yes. So Crown
Brock
Jewel
is
again,
back.
only a
Yes.
couple. This is definitely to set
Mhm.
up for Crown Jewel, because somebody
Definitely.
said we need some more big meaty men slapping meats,
Slapping
going
meats,
head to
yeah.
head and coming for each other at this pay-per-view.
Because
And
correct me if I'm wrong, that was their last match, was at Crown Jewel between the two of them, if I remember
no,
correctly.
no, 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 no.
No, it wasn't?
Was Crown Jewel? Was there another Crown Jewel earlier this year?
Yeah. Wasn't there? Yeah, there was one like right
Because I was
before
gonna say that.
WrestleMania. Remember?
Oh, I don't know
There
if
was
that
one.
was it, but I do know that they had
I'm
day
sure that I think
one.
that was it.
Okay,
Was
if
it
that
day
was
one?
Crown Jewel, because no, day one they started the year, and then that's when like the whole thing,
I'm
because
pretty
Roman
sure
was
it
out
was.
because of COVID, and then they had Elimination Chamber where Bobby was taken out and then lost his championship even without being in there, and then I
Oh,
guess they. Are you fine? Did it happen?
I'm still looking.
I know there was some kind of event before WrestleMania, though. I can't remember if it was Crown Jewel or if it was like because they had Elimination Chamber.
It was. No, it was definitely Crown Jewel, because remember, it was like it was right before Naomi and Sasha got
Are
back
you
together.
serious?
Yeah, because remember, it was Charlotte and Ronda. It was Charlotte and Sonya versus Charlotte and Naomi versus Ronda and Sonya.
Mari, they're
Remember?
pumping out these Crown Jewel pay-per-views like it's for like 2 a year. Come on, people. They have the same name.
So I think Brock versus Bobby was at Royal Rumble.
No, you know what it is? It wasn't a crown jewel, but it had to be something else. Maybe they have another name for the WWE shows in Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but it was either way. It was a questionable show. Oh no, Mari, they did Elimination Chamber in
Saudi Arabia.
So that's the one where Brock was. So maybe they didn't. I think they might not have had a one-on-one after that, but they did have at that Elimination Chamber show in February. Brock versus Bob. So Brock won the championship. Bobby lost it, but Bobby had like a concussion, quote unquote, in the storyline.
Yes.
So maybe this is,
and
so
it was at Royal Rumble that I think Bobby won the title from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
From Brock Lesnar.
It was like weeks that he had it.
Yeah, he only had it for a few weeks. Yeah.
Sad.
Very weird.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. Like the two of them were in Saudi Arabia.
You know what? I really appreciate that, though. I guess I appreciate that on November 5th, 2022. Like they're returning back to that well, because I'm seeing here that October 2021, it was Roman versus Brock. And then, you know, that story kind of looped in Bobby, I think, from what I remember, especially because Roman was out with COVID to start the year, and then Bobby was looped in. And then there's Elimination Chamber, which we talked about, where, again, the Brock Bobby thing happened. So it does only feel right that if there's some consistency in what's happening in Saudi Arabia for the fans, especially, that they do this match. But it does feel like it's coming out of nowhere, like no builds. But, you know, I mean, at least it's not Bobby being buried, and, you know, he's having a bigger match than he probably would have had just as the US champion going into the show. Because Brock was not going to take him on for the US championship. That's for sure.
Right. Exactly. It kind of doesn't make sense for Brock's character. Yeah, there's a ref bump at the Royal Rumble. Oh, Roman. Right. So there's a ref bump between Bobby and Brock at the Royal Rumble. Roman comes out and speared Brock Lesnar, giving Bobby the chance to win back the title. And that was also when Paul Heyman had turned on Brock Lesnar as well, and back onto Roman.
Huh.
Yeah. You know, what's going on there?
Yeah, I know. I feel like now we're just like, there's so much to think about when it comes to Brock. Like, and this year has been a blur in terms of wrestling, because so much has happened in the ring and outside of the ring. But even then, I'm like, wait, when did Brock leave last time? When's he coming back? But like, he was around in June doing things. So it is kind of funny to me. Yeah. So what I'm thinking about, Mari, is like, it is kind of funny that Brock just showed up and attacked Lashley here, and a little bit random that he decided that this was when he's going to get his revenge that he didn't really need to even take, which, like, he didn't even need to take revenge on Lashley because
he won the feud.
Yeah, he won the feud. So okay, so this makes sense that it makes no sense.
Big meaty men slapping meat and crown
for no reason at all.
For no reason. They're not tying up titles, so I'm fine with this,
they should talk about the money from Saudi Arabia more, though.
I'm fine. I am
and the human rights abuses, but
but the money first and foremost.
I mean, I think that's more realistic that they talk about that, but
yeah. And finally, Legado del Fantasma. We didn't get to really talk about it last week. Legado del Fantasma debuted on SmackDown with a new Zelina Vega. They said Queen Zelina.
They just cut Elektra out of the process, and they said, let's just streamline things. We know, like, it is kind of messed up that Elektra Lopez got replaced by Zelina, like, that there wasn't room for both of them in the equation. But
yes, but also I think Elektra is still down in NXT from all that we know, and she was a breakout down there, like, within the women's division, and I think it's best that she stay down there. And I don't think, not from a developmental standpoint, but I think that division needs help. But I think she can be a good solo act.
I just don't think that Okay, here's the thing for me. It's a couple of things. Like, one, like just having Zelina swap in for Elektra feels a little strange to me, like as if they're just interchangeable. When like Zelina, phenomenal in her own right and doing great things, but they're like, we're just gonna take out like one Latina for another, like like I just don't know about
I can
that
I
energy.
can
And
see
then
what you're saying there.
but then
Okay.
even in terms of the women, like and I think I mentioned this, I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, but I was like, Mari, it would be amazing if they had two women with this group. Like they never do that. And so it does kind of feel like it was that one spot. And I feel like if Zelina weren't there, maybe they would have continued with Elektra here, but who
I
knows?
personally don't like when factions get that big. I just, for me, keep it at 3, 4 at the max. I
Mm,
understand like more women in factions 5, but
sure.
I get that. But I also factions feel like they always have a cap to me sometimes. So I'm
I
fine
agree.
with it. I think this is the perfect move. I think everybody benefits from this. Like
Yeah.
truly. I think Electra has proven that she can stand on her own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like she truly has grown with over
Mm-hmm.
like the last year or so. I don't she doesn't need Legado, I don't think.
No.
So keeping her down in NXT, letting her make her mark there to eventually be brought up by herself, I think is the better course for her. Legado are very good. Santos Escobar is very good on the mic. However, nobody knows who they are because they were on
Mm-hmm.
NXT.
Mm-hmm.
Introducing Zelina Vega, where she is in her element as a
Mm.
manager, as a like side wrestler to this group, it does not feel forced to me. It feels like
No.
this is where she would be. She looks great with them. Her and Santos on the mic together. I think it was a great move. The two other dudes got new names. Did
The
Santos
two
Escobar
other
get a new
dudes.
name? I might have to look into that.
Well,
But
you
they
know
they
what?
they gave
We'll
one
find
like
out.
Cruz Della something, and the other one is like Joaquin Wild. They gave them new names. So
Mhm.
other than that,
Cruz del
I
Toro
Cruz
and
del Toro. Mhm.
but I think yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
And
think
Joaquin Wild.
yes, Joaquin Wild. And I think they
Mhm.
might have renamed them a few weeks back or something like that. It was
Yes,
keeping up with NXT
it
is its
is.
own
Yeah.
tour. But I will say with Legado, I agree with you in terms of Zelina adding so much value just in general, not even for that manager spot
Mhm.
or not even like as like uh, for better for worse being like the woman in the group, but like she adds so much as a seasoned performer with WWE. And I think that something that people should remember is that we did get Legado del Fantasma and Hit Row in NXT back when Hit Row debuted around that time. We actually had
Exactly.
Elektra and BFAB brawling. They had a
Yeah,
match at one point that
they
was
did.
not great because they're both super green at that point.
Yeah.
But like I like that we're going back to the well of Legado and Hit Row because like something about that worked in NXT and maybe they could
Exactly.
replicate that here on the main roster. Hopefully.
Exactly. It's like a relaunching of that feud that will help get them both over. I think it's perfect because they've all, like you said, they've worked together so
Hmm.
well previously that it'll be easy for them to throw matches together. I
Hmm.
think and I think Zelina will probably be a good foil to help BFAB learn a little bit too. So
I have so many questions about what BFAB's gonna do in the ring
mhm,
because it was, I mean, we loved BFAB in the initial run, and
mhm.
obviously that ended for Hit Row unceremoniously. BFAB never really had a chance to develop fully in the ring. And
Yeah.
I mean, I still like struggle watching her a little because I'm like,
Yeah.
don't hurt
We'll
yourself. Like
see.
she took like a clothesline last week, I want to say, or maybe no, this week. She took a clothesline from Zelina, like jumping off the steps and
Yeah.
fell hard, like
Hard.
and
Mhm.
also kind of like bended back like in a not a great position, but
Yeah.
Like that's not. All I know is I'm like that's not how that's supposed to sound when you
Exactly.
land.
I definitely think, you know me, I
Yeah.
don't mind a good manager that takes a few bumps. I think
Right.
it's highly underrated. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but why are the women always the managers?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was I loved women managers back in the day.
Yeah.
So I think if BFAB can just learn to take a few bumps and stuff, I don't think she necessarily needs to be in the ring personally. But
I agree.
we'll see what happens, but I like this. I like this so much. I think Zelina looks so good too with her new hair, and now she's dressing up again. Like it's giving peak like her and Andrade almost. Like
Ooh.
I love it. I love it so much. I love this version of Zelina. I know you were a big Queen Zelina fan.
Queen Zelina. I miss her. I miss her. I think she was really amazing. And she brought so much to the product back in the day. Queen Zelina from Brooklyn.
From
And
Brooklyn.
it really from Brooklyn. It really worked. And but also actually you know what? It's been a year. Like, who are we kidding? It's been a year. If it hadn't been a year, then I'd be like, where's the crown? But
Yeah.
she'll get the crown back one day. Don't worry. By the way, Mari, how, like, speaking of Queen of the Ring, other than giving Zelina a gimmick, it was just like so anticlimactic. Like, what
It
was
was.
the point? We've almost forgot about it.
King of the Ring was better because Xavier Woods
Oh.
finally got his win.
And even
back
that
in
kind
the-
of
in the
ended
blood.
too. I
It
think
did.
around when
The
Big E was injured, right?
bloodline. Remember the bloodline like
Ooh.
stomped his crown and all of that.
But that was a story, and it worked.
Yeah. It's been so long that they've had the belts and they've been fighting that we forgot about that part. But yeah, so I love this. Zelina is in her element. Legado is there. Hit Row got something to do. This is what we were saying. Like, at least these two tag teams have something to do, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I love it. We'll see it continue to develop. Hopefully they continue to give it time. And again, as you mentioned, as we've mentioned a couple times on this podcast today, so many different teams in the mix. I would like to see some of them start talking about the tag championships more and just like gunning for something bigger, because I don't know how you get the teams up to the Uso level unless they start having the Usos name in their mouths, essentially.
True.
So we'll see who says their name first, but weird times on the tag division. But this is amazing with Legado, and we'll see if and when Elektra shows up on the main roster. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. All right, that's it for the highlights of the week. Again, all of the highlights of the week can be found in a very handy playlist, either in your show notes or show description.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the shoot this week. Yay!
Shoot.
The shoot. Of course, in wrestling, the shoot is defined by any unplanned, unscripted, real life occurrence happening in wrestling. This is where we just talk about whatever we want to that either grinds our gears or giving somebody praise and flowers. This week, will the real TBS champion please stand up?
Okay, no. I'm not going to take this disrespect, Mari. Before we even get into it, you know that I know who the real TBS champion is. Yes. We better not have questions about it. We better not start this drama of who's the champ. I'm just saying, I'm a little fired up in this episode, but especially going to this topic because some people don't have the respect to treat people like they deserve to be treated.
2 weeks ago, Jade Cargill, the TBS champion, basically was like, she wants some competition. She wants somebody to rise to her level. Nyla Rose, accompanied by Vicky Guerrero and Marina Shafir, the vicious Vixens, if you will, stepped up, and Nyla said she wants another shot. Jade basically was like, I beat you already. And Nyla was like, well, let's try it again. Jade went to then a week ago defend her championship against Willow Nightingale on Rampage a week ago. She beat Willow. Shout out to Willow Nightingale for putting in the work and being able to show up on TV. But Jade and the baddies Of course, Kiera Hogan and Layla Gray were distracted by Vicky Guerrero long enough for Nyla Rose to snatch the TBS championship from the timekeeper and run away.
Look, that was not.
uh, so
I
good.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, we were talking before the show even began a little about this too, and we've talked about it at the start of the show, but like just give us like anything good with the women. Like you
Mhm.
referenced women and managers, and we've talked about this a little. Like it's amazing that women in wrestling could be managers, they could be wrestlers and champions and featured performers and do so many different things. And I just love this pack. Well, I love Jade Cargill, of course, but I love
Of
the
course.
package that we're getting here where it's like Jade being really punked out by Nyla Rose. Obviously, it's great to see Nyla Rose here as really one of the first women's champions. We saw we've seen in the early era of
Yeah.
AEW, it was like Riho, we saw Shida as champion, we saw Nyla Rose as champion. So I like that Nyla Rose is in a featured spot. And I think, like, I mean, I just love Nyla Rose in general
Same.
as
Yeah.
a trans woman in wrestling, just being able to be featured in a world where we haven't gotten that in wrestling in a
Mhm.
lot of time. And so I love Nyla Rose running around with that championship. I do think it's disrespectful to Jade, but I can put
Right.
that aside because Jade is still champ.
Yeah. Nyla was one of the reasons why I loved the AEW's women's division when it first debuted. She was the person I was going to go see when we went to the first ever AEW show when they came to DC. So, and it just feels like she hasn't been doing much lately, and she's amazing on Twitter. She's so hilarious on Twitter. But her original character was she was just like, of course, the native beast. That's what she called herself. She didn't
Yeah.
talk much. She was just a destroyer. But if you watch her or if you listen to her on Twitter and stuff like that, she's actually very, very funny. And you know how I don't like when they like sap the charisma out of people and want to make them just like the monster heel. I love I love that with this storyline,
Mhm.
she snatches the championship, she runs out, she is
Yeah.
now calling herself the TBS champion, which you can't do that. And she defended last night on Rampage. Well, for her, she went up against Anna Jay on Rampage, defended her title. There is this amazing video after Nyla wins
Oh my God.
and Vicky Guerrero puts up a sign 1-0 because famously Jade is 39-0. Um Jade and the baddies like come down to ringside. There are like 4 security guards. Layla and Kiera Hogan try and get past. They can't get past. Jade comes and hits the most vicious bicycle kick I've ever seen.
It was not right. To a security
It
guard
was
of all
so
people.
good. Oh my god, she kicked him. She kicked the ever loving mess out of him, and then decided to beat down every single one of those security guards, trying to get at her title. But she was distracted just long enough for Vicky, Marina, and Nyla to get away with the championship again.
Literally, they just
So
ran, and the
funny.
best, but that might have been
So funny.
okay. So Jade's beatdown of the security guards was great, like a good bicycle kick to
Mhm.
the face of one of them. She punched another out she really took them all out,
She
which
took
was
them
impressive
out.
by herself, which is really impressive because she didn't have to do it all by herself.
Mhm.
But you don't mess with Jade Cargill, and so. But my favorite part is that she's standing over one security guards. As you said, you just see them sneak by in the background. Like,
Yes.
keep your eyes on
It's
the prize, Jade. Like, come on.
so funny. Like Nyla is taking like photos with it. She's changed her name to TBS champion. It's so good and it's so funny, but also like it kind of moves the storyline along because Jade has had the TBS championship since its induction and it's
Mhm.
been a while. So it's another way to kind of test the audience. Like, does this belt look good on Nyla? Does the audience respond to Nyla maybe
They
actually
better.
truly winning it? It's setting them up for a feud and a blow off. So it's so good, and it definitely reminds me of, when Sasha stole the Raw Women's Championship
Oh
from
no.
Asuka,
Yeah.
yeah, during the, pandemic era, and it was funny, and that led to a great storyline, so I love this. I love all of this. If any two people are going to make me watch Rampage, it's going to be Jade and Nyla, and I really want this to continue. Shout out to them.
Yes, and by the way, I feel like, look, and by the way, Nyla Rose doing incredible things on Twitter. Like, follow Nyla Rose just because,
my
like,
God.
all of the graphics at Nyla Rose Beast doing it. And you know what, Maury, we haven't talked about this, but Nyla Rose is a DC person, and
Yes.
I have to admit my faults. Like, yes, I'm here for Jade, and she has a hold on me, and I can't help it. She's strong. She's just boom. She has that stranglehold. But I have to say, we might need to become Team Nyla here.
This is going to be hard. It's like, don't make me choose.
I just feel like there might need to be a choice because we're not in the baddie section. We could be in the baddie section. We should be in the baddie section.
Matt is still mad about that.
Jade, I am mad because at the end of the day, Jade, we have your back. We wouldn't let Nyla Rose sneak off with your championship. We wouldn't let Nyla Rose find the little Sharpies and whatever else she needs to put up the 1-0.
1-0.
We have your back. We don't miss. Mari doesn't miss, especially. Like, they could probably sneak by me all day. But Mari in your corner, Jade, you're missing out. So I'm just saying, Mari, are you going to debut in AEW next week with Nyla Rose?
No, I had not planned on it, Jade? But if I get the call, if either one of them give me the call, maybe.
Either one.
I like them both. Do not make me choose.
Yeah, I do too, but I think that's kind of why we're talking about it, because it is cool to see them. And, I mean, maybe another element of it that's worth mentioning is just like, it just feels so fresh. Like, I love Jade Cargill in the Goldberg spot, I'll call it, just beating up all the security guards. And it's nice just to get like a pure feud, and hopefully it goes on for a while, but I have a feeling that Jade is gonna get a few things. Jade's gonna get her championship back, or Nyla's gonna run out of ink in her Sharpie to write up those fake those fake 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. Like, you're not gonna get up to 40-0, Nyla. Maybe I should stop talking because I feel like I'm not gonna get hired by Nyla either at this rate. But just being honest, though.
So we're gonna try and keep an eye out on this, but it's amazing. If anything is gonna make us watch it, definitely this. All right, so that is the end of our show. Matt, can you tell the people where they can find you?
Yes, the people could find me here on the Wrestling RHAPup each and every week. And you could find me at Matt Scott GW on social media. I would encourage folks to go back and check out episodes of Pod Friends to date. Those are pretty evergreen, getting to know the podcasters and people of the Rob Has a Podcast RHAP network. So you can check that out at robhasawebsite.com/podfriendsfeed. And other than that, just kind of follow me. Keep up with whatever I'm up to. You never know. There's some fun podcasting, fun and games coming up in the podcasting world, just to tease what's coming up. But I'll announce more of this as it nears, and excited for some fun in the near future in the podcasting world. But Mari, where could the people find hold on, let me set this up. Mari, you are booked, you are busy, you're everywhere. You are doing the podcast left and right. You're talking about the things. I'm not going to say anything specifically because I don't want to ruin your plugs. But Mari, tell the people, where could the people find you?
Okay, so let's go in order here.
Okay, yes, alphabetical order or
order of the day of the week that it drops.
Okay, so we like to order.
First and foremost, you can find me over on postshowrecaps.com. On the book club podcast, I've taken my rightful place on the book club council to discuss House of the Dragon with Philly and Taryn over there. So you can always go to postshowrecaps.com, House of the Dragon. The book club podcast, this week we went over episode 8, The Lord of the Tides, a very, very emotional House of the Dragons episode. It was so good. We deep dive into it. And on the book club podcast, we do full book spoilers near the end, but we talk about the show from a book reader's perspective. Definitely go check that out. Love doing that podcast. Second, me and Sarah Carradine bring True Crime Tuesdays to RHAP with our podcast Crime Scene. Crime Scene is where we review true crime documentaries, docuseries, true crime, just media properties, and we give our ratings on them. This past week, we dropped the Real Bling Ring Netflix. It's a Netflix docuseries. Rating on that.
I don't want to spoil the podcast,
Yeah.
but what was your rating at the end of that series? Maybe that's a good teaser.
I gave it a 4. So,
damn. Okay.
Yes. So if you want to know why it was rated that high, a lot of people wouldn't expect that. Definitely go and listen by going to RHAPhasawebsite.com/crime feed. And you can follow us on Twitter at Crime Scene RHAP. That's at Crime SEEN RHAP on Twitter. You can send us emails to to crimescene@robhasawebsite.com, something like that. And follow us on Instagram, going to Crime Scene Podcast on Instagram. And then finally, also on post-show recaps, me, Chappelle, and LaTanya talk Atlanta. Yesterday, the most recent one that just dropped, it was just me and Chappelle. Our fearless leader was out, but me and Chappelle talked about episode, I think it was 6 of Atlanta, called The Crank That Killer. It was a hilarious episode. Me and Chappelle had a hilarious discussion. We answered the question, how far are you willing to go for a pair of shoes? So you can go to postshowrecaps.com/Atlanta to follow us and subscribe there. Of course, for anything else that I'm doing, follow me on Twitter at Mari Talks Too Much. That's 2, like the number 2 on Twitter. And again, hopefully you are subscribed to us here at the Wrestling RHAPup by going to robhasawebsite.com/wrestling feed. You can send us your emails, wrestling@robhasawebsite.com. And for me and Mascot, we're saying, remember, wrestling is for everybody, but not all wrestling is for everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
I know that's right.
Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party. Muller Ric Flair, showing out like Bianca Belair, Best podcast, flush it in the air, Roman Reigns and we win it, don't care, No cap. Throw 'em up, lay it down just like Matt and Mari. Wrestling RHAPup's gonna make it sorry. Feeling like The Rock cause I'm driving in Ferraris. And we coming every week and it's feeling like a party.